This week, 3 separate people told me the same exact story, and it's a story I've never heard. And I thought it was really interesting. Like, wait a minute. Does this story resonate with other people too? It must. And this week, we're going to talk about what that story is. This is the Rebellious Intuition Show, and I am Chrissy Smith, and I am your fellow learner and guide. Let's explore our intuition and the intuition that maybe we've been holding back, but wants to rebel and wants us to be out there and public, even if it's frightening. So that's what the show is about. RebelliousIntuition.com. This week, 3 different people told me the same story. And I was at breakfast with some friends and I was telling them I was being brave, right? The show is all about embracing that intuition. I'm like, hey, I'm being brave. Hey guys, I decided to take my tarot reading public and charge for it. And I started a podcast about intuition. First, one friend said, oh, that sounds so neat. I'm Cassandra. And I'm like, what does that mean? And the other friend said, I'm Cassandra too. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? So they're like, you don't know the story of Cassandra? I do not. Is it Cassandra or Cassandra? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I'm like, no, I don't know this story. So they tell me the story, and we'll get into that in a minute. That was on Sunday. On Tuesday, I'm at work and someone else, I'm being brave, talking about my tarot reading and talking about the podcast. And she says, oh, I'm Cassandra. I'm like, you're the 3rd person in a couple of days to say the same thing. Fascinating. So I have never heard this Greek myth, the Greek myth of Cassandra. So I also want you to think, while I'm telling you this myth, how interesting it is that, 2,000 years later, more than that, I don't know, but significant amount of time has passed. And yet this is still relatable for people in 2026. 2026, people are relating to the story of Cassandra. Cassandra was given the gift of prophecy by Apollo, the god Apollo, so she can see what is going to happen clearly, accurately. She absolutely knows what is going to happen, but she is also cursed so that no one believes her. Wow, to think that people are resonating with that in 2026. I know what's going to happen and no one believes me. In the story, she warns people about a bunch of things, including the Trojan horse and the fall of Troy, and they ignore her. They don't believe her. So I thought it was just fascinating that in 2026, people relate to this. People are like, I am Cassandra. And then I thought, well, wait, I don't feel that feeling. I don't relate to this. And that's when I realized, oh, hold on. Yeah, because I don't talk about my intuition with anybody that I think wouldn't believe me. Oh, who else here feels that way? I've been gatekeeping. Dang. Gatekeeping. Now I'm thinking, oh, it's because I have not been brave. So people who are out there saying like, no, guys, don't go in there. Don't do the thing. I've got a bad feeling. Something bad is going to happen. And are risking having people not believe them. I usually just don't talk about it with anybody I think won't believe me. Now, here's the other part of this intuition thing. I find that my intuitive hit might be, don't do it, I have a bad feeling. So if it really is something dangerous, I might actually say, does that seem safe? Maybe I just bring up a whole bunch of ideas about how it could be unsafe in hopes that someone will see that I'm being rational. Just the idea that I'm being rational, that this is not just made up. But there are times where I'm like, I've got a feeling. So what if I stop gatekeeping? And there are people I've stopped gatekeeping with. My husband is not a believer. Well, now that he's been with me for a good amount of time, he's had a couple of experiences of his own. But I remember going on road trips and I was like, hey, let's stop at the next rest area. And he's like, why? I'm like, yeah, I want to go to the bathroom or buy another cup of coffee. Not really a lie, because really on a road trip, I mean, if there's a bathroom, I'm going to use it. And I'm always willing for another cup of coffee. That's never going to be a question. But a couple of times it happened that after we left that, we were driving along and we're driving past the accident that we either would have been stuck behind or in. And it happened often enough that he caught on and he's like, "So, my witchy wife, did you have a feeling that that was going to happen? And that's why you wanted to stop at a rest area?" And I was kind of sheepish about it. I'm like, yeah. He's like, "You know what? Just tell me in the future. Just tell me, like, I've got a bad feeling. Let's pull over." And I was like, "Really?" Like, I mean, I don't believe it and I don't get it. But at the same time, if that's what you feel, then just be open with me. Because, he's my best friend and partner in crime. So he doesn't need to believe everything I believe just to listen to me and acknowledge my feelings about it. But enough times that he looked at it and went, "I think she's been trying to keep us from getting into accidents." There was one time that I was like, "All right, let's actually, I've got a bad feeling. Let's pull over." And when we pulled over is when the rain turned into like the absolute blinding downpour. And he's like, "Ooh, I'm glad we pulled over because I would not want to be driving in that." And so I'm in New England. I'm in New Hampshire. In New England, that kind of like real blinding downpour probably only going to last about 5 or 10 minutes. It does not last that long here. We might get rain, but the real driving, like crazy rain, like you just pull over. It's going to last 5 or 10 minutes. But he believes me now, even though he does not truly understand where any of that comes from. He's like, "Okay." So imagine that. What if I were brave and told everybody? What if I told everybody? What if I risked it? What I find is that I tend to be surrounded by an awful lot of people who are really open-minded. When I tell people like, "Oh, hey, I'm kind of sheepish about it, but I'm taking my tarot reading and I'm going to be charging for it." And they're like, "Oh, that's so neat." Maybe they've never had their cards read before. They're like, "I've always wanted to do that." Oh, cool, neat. But I haven't had anybody say like, "You're out of your mind. I thought you were a rational human being and you turned out to be crazy." And you know what? If they did, I guess that's my chance to go, maybe our lives are not aligned. That's okay. But that feeling of, will people believe me? Wow. Yeah. Greek mythology was talking about that stuff. Wow. But also let's talk for a moment about how if you are intuitive, it's not just in your religion or your culture or in this time. This seems to be part of the human experience. Now, they say that everyone is intuitive, but also, I think every culture I can think of has at least somebody who seems to be intuitive. Even if it's someone who gets vilified as the crazy healer out by the woods who, people still go to, but maybe the church doesn't like it. It crosses all cultures. This seems to be part of the human experience. And yet, how many of us are shy about it? And then the ones who are out there loud and proud, how many of them aren't believed? And are we being brave? Let's be brave. Let's be brave and go ahead and not worry if people believe us. And let's reframe that to something else. Because intuition is yours and it's a gift. So here's an affirmation for us to think about that links into this episode. I choose to live in a world where my intuition is safe to trust, even if it isn't understood.